What is up, my friend? Thank you so much for being here and for clicking on this video. Most likely you may have clicked on this video because you are in the midst of prepping for NaNoWriMo National Novel Writing Month this November. My hat's off to you. I have never once done NaNoWriMo, so this is gonna be a fun, interesting video from the perspective of someone who's never done it, but I fully understand it. And I love that NaNoWriMo really sparks this inspiration for people who have been considering for a long time, maybe writing a book, to like, hey, let's do that. And yes, there's a community for that, and you have a support group, and just this cool feeling of everyone working on books at the same time. I love that. I love that sense of community. So if you're embarking on NaNoWriMo this November, best of luck. You're gonna rock it. I'm not going to be talking about plotting or outlining or making notes or getting ready to write your story, but we're going to talk about how to nourish yourself, mind, body, and spirit, to mentally and creatively prepare to write the book of your dreams this November. So without further ado, let's get into it. Roll that intro. So a lot of times when we're preparing to embark on a creative project, we plan the actual project itself. We get notes ready, we plot things, we make schedules, we really flesh all of that out before we start the project. But rarely do we think about how to prepare ourselves mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and these are the things I want to look at today. So these are going to be 7 self-care habits that I personally have tried and that have worked for me to maybe adopt and take with you into your Preptober getting ready for NaNoWriMo. Number 1 is to start cultivating some positive self-talk to bring with you into your project. Speaking positively to ourselves is so important. How we start our day is how we end our day. Do we get up in the morning with this sense of, we can do it, we've got this, we're going to write something inspiring and exciting, or are we worried or doubting ourselves? These are things that arise for every single writer. There have been so many times to this day where I still will doubt myself on something, or look back over a certain chapter or a part of the plot in my story and be like, oh, is that really good enough? Is that really what I want? Oh, what if, what if this, what if that, what if, and our minds get so clouded with what ifs and doubts about ourselves. It's so important to speak positively to yourself. What we put out and put into our heads is what we're going to ultimately attract into our lives. So we need to start here. Everything starts here. Cultivating positive energy so bleeds over into our stories. I can definitely tell a difference when I look back over my own work and see writing that when I was in a pumped up, inspired place where I was really positive minded, it just shines through the writing. And believe me, your reader is going to feel that too when they're reading it. When you're pumped up and inspired and believing in yourself, that's what makes good writing. Pick a positive intention when you start your day. Read something that inspires you. Listen to something that gets you stoked up for your story. Positive words that you can carry with you throughout your day, preferably ones that are more geared towards self-empowerment, self-respect, and self-love. Because when you love yourself, that's what really causes you to be like, you know what? I got this. I can totally do this. Number 2, get moving. Get some exercise into your day. If you're a writer like me, you probably spend large amounts of time at a desk or sitting at a table pounding those words. And the problem with that is bad posture. So many studies link better mental clarity to exercise. And it's really amazing how you can use exercise to even kind of get yourself out of a funk if you're like stuck in a place where you're like, oh, I just feel stuck. I feel stuck in my story or stuck on what I'm working on. Sometimes it's good to actually create that action of physically getting up and physically doing something, and that can help get you unstuck mentally and creatively. Another one of my favorites every morning is meditation. I love to take a few quiet moments to just breathe and focus on being grounded in the present moment. There's so much power to focusing our minds and our bodies on just being in the present moment, not always being here and there and everywhere else and thinking about 100 things at the same time. Sometimes we need to just click pause on our busy schedules and acknowledge that it's cool to be busy. It's cool to be working on stuff. Like, congrats, that's awesome. But we also need to not get so busy minded that we can't slow down and we can't be present because we're texting this person and emailing this person and going here and writing this and blogging about that. We need to have a time of day, preferably every day, that we take to just block everything else out and ground fully and completely into the present moment. And meditation is a great way to do that. Whether you're just taking 3 minutes in the morning to get quiet and be present with yourself, or maybe taking a longer chunk of time and really soaking up the benefits that meditation can bring. I love to find ways to bring the softness and grace into my workday. I love to use essential oils, whether I'm rubbing them on my skin or massaging them into my temples or diffusing them in the room I'm in. Things like lavender or mint or tangerine oil all have a great energy to each one of those, whether you want something that's going to energize you or help you to just chill out and relax a little bit. Essential oils come with such a massive plethora of benefits that I'd have to make an entirely different video just to talk about those. But I love to take a little lavender and rub it on my wrists and on my temples when I'm like having a hard day's work at my desk. It just really helps bring the grace to the workflow. It just is so nice and relaxing. For the next two, I want to actually head into my kitchen and talk about some of the things that I do on a daily basis to keep myself nourished, which is such an important part of staying creatively healthy, because the way we nourish our bodies is how we're ultimately nourishing our brains and our creativity. So let's head into the kitchen and talk a little bit about that. So one of the main things that tends to get cut from our day-to-day lives and schedules when we start on a new project or we get really busy is we tend to cut back on sleep hugely and a lot of times skip out on meals, which is such a counterproductive thing to do because your brain burns roughly 300 calories a day. And in order to be able to write and be happy with your creative experience, you need to have a sufficient amount of caloric intake, and not all calories are created equal. We know that. Science proves that whole foods are the most healthy, nourishing fuel for your body. So it's important to make sure at the beginning of the day that you're not skipping out on breakfast and heading straight into work. You're actually taking a little bit of time to do a little bit of meal prepping. And if having a plant-based whole foods diet has taught me anything, it's that so many things can be prepared the night before or ahead of time to save you time in the morning. I will link some of my favorite recipes below for things like a really healthy, delicious granola, yogi tea, which is a lot like a homemade chai spice tea, which is really lovely for this time of year, and overnight oats, which is a really fun, quick breakfast that can be prepared the night before and ready in the fridge for you to grab first thing in the morning. I notice such a big difference in my day when I'm going through just trying to crank out the words, but I'm starving. The creative juices just aren't flowing. I don't have that creativity and inspiration because I've depleted my body of the nutrients it needs to function. And that's not just for physically functioning, it's also about all the mental stuff. We're burning so many calories as creatives coming up with stories. I mean, that'd be an interesting question, is not what your word count was, but how many calories went into your story, how many calories were burned in the making of that book. Probably a lot. So it's very important to make sure that you're nourishing your body properly. So check out the links below for some of my favorite recipes. Perhaps just as important as nourishing your body first thing in the morning is staying hydrated. I found some creative, interesting ways to stay hydrated other than just chugging a glass of water every hour or so. You can make herbal tea. The yogi tea I mentioned before is a great one as well, and has lots of things like ginger and cinnamon and things that are great for your immune system. Things like herbal teas will also add to keeping your body hydrated and healthy throughout the day. Plus, who doesn't love a nice hot cup of tea while they're writing? I mean, that's just pretty darn ideal right there. And last but definitely not least, make sure you're getting enough sleep. Now, this is something that a lot of people will skip out on when they get busy and they start crunching on a project, especially one that has a deadline. So often I will hear people be like, oh, I stayed up really late to get my word count in. Try to prioritize sleep. Most adults need 7 to 9 hours of sleep. Sleep is the time that your body restores and replenishes, so when you're skipping out on that, your mind, body, and ultimately your creativity are going to pay for it. Going to bed earlier is probably going to help that book write itself a lot faster and a lot more smoothly, with less frustrations and feeling like throwing your laptop across the room. So there you have it, my friend, a few ways that I like to nourish my mind, body, and spirit when I'm working on a creative project. And honestly, every day, these are tips that I've just integrated into my lifestyle. And when you practice them over time, little by little, one thing at a time, it just becomes part of your lifestyle. And you start to notice, at least for me, I noticed that my creativity greatly increased when I started taking these self-care ideas into practice and implementing them into my day-to-day life, and my creative career has certainly benefited from it. Please tell me what you think in the comments below and share with me your favorite self-care tip. I would absolutely love to hear about it. I love to find new things to implement into my own daily routine as I continue to search for creative ways to stay healthy and happy and write good books. So I wish you the best November, especially if you're writing a book. Good for you. It's gonna be awesome. I'm so excited for you. Keep believing in yourself, keep writing good books. If you'd like to see exclusive content, by the way, I have videos, a creative podcast, and short stories I share over on my Patreon, so feel free to go check that out and join the community if you feel like it. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you got something out of it, and I will see you in the next video, my friend. Stay stoked.